Hey, weirdos. Bring a fiend to a night of terror. But wait until the dead of night.
Hey, I'm just going to keep my eye on this because my recording pinged off when I was just doing it a second ago. So we start all over again. Hi, so what we're doing today, going to be doing a review. I did like an overview of this a while ago, but I'm going to do a review of Swamp Thing because I've actually read the thing now, The Beast. So it's the deluxe edition, $49.99. You get about 430 plus pages. If the deluxe edition is the same dimensions as an omnibus, obviously just not as thick, unless it's a Marvel omnibus, then seriously they would charge you $100 for this. But it's by Len Wein and Kelley Jones, and it's a bittersweet book. It's sweet because it's got wonderful Kelley Jones artwork with fun, campy, over the top writing by Len Wein, which is what you want from the creator of the Swamp Thing back in the 70s. I'll explain more in a bit, but it's bittersweet. There's a lovely foreword by Kelley Jones. There's a lovely previous thought. There's a main lovely foreword here by the wife slash partner of Len Wein, Christine Valada, who dedicated the book to Len Wein because obviously, sadly, he passed. And then there's a wonderful introduction by Kelley Jones, and he explains how when he was a child, when he was 11, when he first read Swamp Thing #2 back in the early 70s, he hated the book. He threw it down. He thought, this isn't superheroes. This isn't right. I mean, this coming from Kelley Jones, who's now like the master of horror. He's like taking on the mantle from Bernie Wrightson. And he said, he said he had that opinion for about 2 hours. And he thought, but he said, like a germ, Swamp Thing lingered in his brain. And he realised that it's actually really, really good. And he fell in love with Swamp Thing. And basically that changed the way he read comics. Obviously, he realised there was more to comics than just superheroes. I mean, that's just wonderful. So it really puts you in a really good frame of mind about what the book will include in here. So this book comprises of the two-part Convergence story, then a six-part miniseries that came out of that just due to the popularity of doing Swamp Thing. Then there's a script by Len Wein, a partial script, and then there's extra pages by Kelley Jones of Swamp Thing artwork. And then there's two issues of Swamp Thing, the original run of Swamp Thing by Doug Wheeler with artwork by Kelley Jones. And then there's a wonderful, which I remember having back in the day, two-parter Batman Tale, which was by Doug Munch and on writing and Kelley Jones on artwork. This was like the peak Gothic Batman. I adored this. And then there's a wonderful layouts and sketches and formulas and etc. in the back. So it's a really, really fun mashup of all different things, of all different flavors, but it all encircles the work of Kelley Jones and the wonderful writing of Len Wein. But I'll keep on. Oh, there's another really fun. There's little sketches peppered throughout as well. But like I said, it's bittersweet because so the Convergence two-parter came out. It got quite. I think out of the Convergence series, that's the one that really took with the fans because it's the original writer of Swamp Thing with Kelley Jones, who's like the closest thing we've now got to Ben Wrightson. This is before Nick Klein came up, kind of evolved into what his style is now, because I think he'd be a good one for Swamp Thing as well nowadays. But I'm digressing again. And so they released a six-part miniseries out of it, which sold really well. And they were going to make it. It was like the Poison Ivy situation where it really took off with the fans. So DC, unlike Marvel, they listened to the fans and they said, right, okay, we'll make it an ongoing. So Len Wein started doing the plotting for the 7th issue. Kelley Jones did artwork. Sadly, Len Wein passed away, so there was no ongoing series that was shelved. I mean, I kind of respect that idea that they didn't try to get somebody to finish it off, somebody to come on as a writer. think it's nice that they respected the legacy of Wein. But as a selfish fan, I'd have loved to have seen what that series would have continued to grow to be. But as a selfish fan on the flip side, if that had been the case, we might never have seen the Ram V and Mike Perkins Swamp Thing reinterpretation of the character of Swamp Thing. So, like I said, it's quite a bit. There's a bitter side to it, but there's a sweet side as well because of how Swamp Thing has been utilised since. So yeah, so the first story is a two-parter, which some wonderful covers, which basically the first issue basically recaps in about 2 pages the origin of Swamp Thing, and look at that art. It's a worthy tribute to the legacy what Bernie Wrightson left behind. I mean, Kelley Jones is, like I said, he's the perfect pick to take over. So it's a weird one, Convergence. So basically, this is a team. It's kind of like a tip of the fedora to that issue. I think it's either Swamp Thing or Batman, where Swamp Thing goes into Gotham and he encounters Batman. So he returns to Gotham with Abby. So there's a blank period of my time where Convergence came out, where I was just basically reading mainly independents, and I was doing it digitally. And the reason I wasn't reading DC is because DC and Marvel, they weren't reducing the digital comics as quickly. So because I was like really poor at the time with my divorce and whatnot. I just basically got the discounted electrical comics, so like Valiant and Image and all that, because they were like 79p. But again, digressing. So this was new to me, so I'm not familiar. I'm not really fully grasped the situation, what Convergence was. It would have been nice. This is my one critique, the only critique I've got of the whole book. It would have been nice if they had like a little forward explaining what the Convergence event was. But from what I can gather, it's kind of like a tournament of champions, where they pitch one character against another in a situation. Whoever wins, they get to survive and they get this world. So they pitch Swamp Thing against Batman, but it's not Batman who, as we know. It is, again, just look at these covers. It is the Batman from the Munch Elseworld series, what he did with Kelley Jones, where he was a vampire. It's just really fun. This is a real fun two-parter. Like I said, it's kind of throwaway, but it's a nice introduction to what we can expect later on from Kelley Jones and Len Wein. And the dialogue's fun. It's got a good pace to it. It's just a good way of reintroducing people to Swamp Thing, because there'd been no Swamp Thing comics for quite a while before this came around. So it was a nice way to dive back in. But then we move on to The Dead Don't Sleep, which is the launch of the 6-issue miniseries, which sadly, like I said, never got to make it to issue 7 complete anyway. Just look at his art in black and white. So this was much more up to speed. Now, if you're coming into this expecting something like a Ram V story or an Alan Moore story or a Rick Veitch story, forget it. This is Swamp Thing going back to the roots, way back beyond the anatomy, before the anatomy lessons. This is Swamp Thing more in style and feel to the original 70s run, because obviously it's Len Wein, so he writes what he knows. And I'm kind of pleased with that, because he's not trying to ape Alan Moore. He's not trying to be... It would come across as pretentious if he tries to do it, because that's just Alan Moore's normal writing style, but it's not Len Wein's. So it's got much more of like an EC horror kind of flavour, or a Universal Monsters kind of flavour. For me, the way he writes Swamp Thing, and by the way, Kelley Jones just does a fantastic way of emoting Swamp Thing in his face. He can do a great angry Swamp Thing, trepidatious Swamp Thing. So it's got very much like a Universal Monsters flavour to it as well, where it's like a creature feature. And you can tell Len Wein's just having fun with it. It feels in flavour as well to the dialogue of Hellboy, where Hellboy's kind of like a monster fighter, but he's quippy. And this version of Swamp Thing is a bit quippy. He's got a good sense of humour, because why does he have to be dour? So I kind of like that. It's it's not a fresh take, because this is Len Wein's creation. So it's the original take of Swamp Thing. But I love how you can tell that he's just having fun in this DC Dark Universe sandbox. So he brings some of the best characters from that area of DC into it. So you get Phantom Stranger, and just look at that. It's almost Sandman like how Kelly Jones has drawn Phantom Stranger. There's some great back and forwards interaction with the Phantom Stranger. And this very much is pure tip of the hat to Bernie Wrightson style. This page here, what I'm tapping, where you got like a mad professor operating on people to create something else. And it doesn't shy from the body horror, the body parts, etc. This is what I mean about it being more like an EC comic. I mean, look at this page here. This is Kelly Jones just having fun. That zombie character there. It's an unusual one, the 6-issue series, because normally when it's a 6-issue series, the story carries on like that. But this carries on 2 issues, and then that story's finished, and then there's like a 4-issue arc. And it's kind of refreshing, that, to be honest. But again, that cover. But that when he's splitting his body apart. And this is very much this is why it reminds me of Hellboy. This is very much the Swamp Thing that answers with his fists instead of going, oh, this is the Parliament of Trees. Len actually takes a bit of Mickey out of the Parliament of Trees, because I don't think he was such a big fan of that. Or it was just a light-hearted jibe if he was a fan. So it doesn't get as metaphysical or inward-looking as later iterations, as the more post-Alamo onwards version of Swamp Thing became. He's very much one who, as you can tell by this cover here, he's very much one who punches first, asks questions later, and it's really refreshing. It's very, like I said, it's very much a monster comic, and I'll just hold it, and I think that's why it works, because it's just a God, I'm struggling here. It's just a fun, fresh take. It's breezy horror, and sometimes it's nice to have that kind of tonal shift. And it really feeds into Kelly Jones's artwork as well. He's so good at doing like faces in partial shadow. And again, I'm just going to take 1 second. Oh yeah, that's the cover. But the inner cover is even better. Just doing my head in. But as I was saying, this really, some of that artwork is just so good. The colouring as well. Let me just check. Michelle Madsen is the colorist, and she's doing a really good job on it. But again, he's so good at doing like deformed bodies, Kelly Jones, because he did that a number of years before this with the Dead Man's run of miniseries that he did with Mike Barron. That's the one. This is another tangent. One thing that really makes me sad is how so many of my comic heroes, it tends to be more comic writer heroes from the 70s and 80s, have taken like a hard pivot to the right, and they've become big comic skaters and very extreme in the political views. And sadly, Mike Barron's like one of the biggest proponents now of this hard-edged right-wing viewpoint, where if you're not white, if you're not straight, if you're not American, then you're not worth anything, kind of thing. So, and they view creatives in comics like that as well, and they call everything woke. If it's something that they think isn't white and male, anything that goes against what they like, it's woke, which is just childish. But again, I've gone off on a tangent again. What was I saying? Oh yeah, but yeah, oh it's Deadman, yeah. It's the heat. It's 32 degrees today. We do it differently in the UK to America. So we do. Is it Celsius? I can't remember, but it's fucking hot. That's why I'm hiding in the cave today. But yeah, the you can tell that Kelly Jones is just having a blast doing playing with the body of Swamp Thing. That's really good. I mean, this issue is just basically a SmackDown fight between him and this zombie character, and it doesn't always go the way you expect. Like I said, I kind of like how Len Wein has kind of made Swamp Thing a bit more of a monster, where it's more like a shambling muck monster instead of somebody who gets to get out every time just by leaving that body. It becomes husk and he pops up somewhere else and he just gets into the green. He does that a bit, but not to the same degree. And it's kind of nice to just to humanize, if that makes sense, Swamp Thing a bit. And this deluxe edition works so well of displaying Kelly Jones's artwork, and we're reintroduced to old characters as well, like Matt Cable comes back from the original run, but is it Matt Cable? Aha! And so some more occultic shenanigans happen. And this is where Satana comes in. And it's a really fun take on Satana. Not what you'll be used to if you're just reading Jamal Campbell's version of Satana. Um, they've kind of like done away with like the showgirlish kind of like female magician kind of thing. And she's much more like a female Doctor Strange in this. And I kind of like it, to be honest. Just look at this page. So Matt Cable asks for Satana to do something that impacts him and Alec Holland, aka Swamp Thing, very, very severely. And because I don't want to give spoilers, I'm not going to show you quite a bit of it. But let's just say it changes the story a lot. So from this bit, I'm just kind of going to show you some artwork. But it's a clever use of a story trope. Um, and this is like the main story plot for the next remainder of the issues, and it's good fun. And I love the way that they play with sound effects as well. So yeah, I really have no complaints. It's a fun, like I said, it's just a fun read. I mean, look at that guy being taken over by a plant, because of course we've got spores in our bloodstream. And why is Swamp Thing doing that? You'll have to read to find out. And again, that cover. There's just I could keep on just. I'm going to get Armate because I keep on wanting to show you pictures. This is just. I think this is the most fun I've seen Kelly Jones have on a comic. And I didn't think this through. It's really hot. This is why I'm wearing quite a bit less than I normally do. There we go. He's wearing mid dress down. Right. He's just having so much fun with the layouts, with the full page spreads. And I don't know if they like talk between themselves which characters they like to have, because ticking off the boxes of like fan favorites. So you've had Phantom Stranger, drew a really cool Phantom Stranger, gorgeous Satana, and now a character who he's very famous for, Deadman. Now, in the series that the few series that he did with Mike Barron, he drew Deadman quite skeletal looking, whereas this one is much more like a classic style Deadman. So I don't know if this is meant to be set in the past or not, around about the time of the 70s, 80s. But it's interesting. And again, just these layouts, like those panels with the snow. So they go to the place where Deadman resides when he's Nanda Parbat. By the way, this is another random aside. If you want to read a fantastic Deadman series, I hope it ends up in being in DC Finest. It's the miniseries what Jorge Luis Garcia Lopez, I think that's his whole name. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, I think that's his name, did with, I can't remember who the writer was. Was it Denny O'Neill? Was it Mike? No, it's Andy Helfer. Why do I know this? I don't know. They did a series in the 80s, 4 issue, I think, series, and it's gorgeous. So do keep, if it comes out and collects fun, do pick it up. If it doesn't, get it on eBay. But yeah, I lost the train of thought. I was geeking over Deadman. So Phantom Stranger comes here as well because they're trying to find a solution for this problem that they're having, which I don't want to tell you about because it'll ruin the whole plot. But again, just look at those panels there. I love how he draws the face of Phantom Stranger. He makes him look mysterious. And it's nice seeing Alec. I can't say that, but look at this page here with Batman, Spectre, Zatanna, Swamp Thing, and somebody else in black and white. Like I said, just equally impressive. And that full page spread. It's just great. I mean, the Spectre's in here as well, and I adore the Spectre. So this is ticking all my horror geek comic horror. This is why I love DC. They do good horror. Marvel did in the 70s, but not anymore. But it's a fun, satisfying clonk, and the demon makes an appearance as well. So, like I said, Kelley Jones is just eating well here with the characters that he's doing. It's a satisfying conclusion to the story. But as it says here, it gives an editor's note here about the next few pages. It said they were going to do it issue 7, but sadly Len Wein passed away. So this is the art, what Kelley Jones did for that unpublished story. It's just beautiful. I've just been poring over these pages. It'd been just so wonderful because they set it up in a way where it'd have been nice to see how they developed the characters and the situation that the story's been left with in issue 7. But alas, like I said, we did have some fantastic Swamp Thing stuff from Ramfey. But this could have run parallel with it because this focuses on Alec Holland's Swamp Thing, not the new avatar of Swamp Thing. But yeah, really, really sad, but nice to see that they've included the artwork. And then there's got some. This is the script, but like I said, it's not got dialogue. That's why they never did it. But it's just like the action sequences. But fascinating to look how he does his scripting. And nice little sketch there. And then there's Doug Wheeler gives an intro to these 2 issues of Swamp Thing, what Kelley Jones did. And this is earlier Kelley Jones, so his art style's a bit looser, a bit different. Back then he didn't. Oh no, he does the inking on this. But yeah, he's got a very much a different style. This is when he was like making a name for himself on Sandman, so his art style was slightly different, a bit looser, I think. He hadn't become as confident in his use of blacks in his inking. And you can tell it's an early one by the colours as well, because this would have been on on standard newsprints. And then there's his art on here as well, which has got other artists on, so we won't bother looking at that one. But it's nice that they included that just to, fill out the book to make it a special event. But this, I've got fond memories of. That's why I've not read it yet, because I still remember it clearly, because it was one of my favourite crossovers ever. So they did a 2-issue story in Batman on the Doug Munch and Kelley Jones run, which is, like I said, it's a fantastic run. And I hope it gets reprinted soon with DC Finest, because it deserves it. It's just wonderful. I mean, look at that Killer Croc. Wonderfully, wonderfully gothic. This is how I like my Batman. I like Batman as a detective or as something verging on supernatural. And this is what this embraces. This was Kelley Jones really, really getting into his stride. This is like the next stage before what he did on Swamp Thing series of Len Wein. Gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. And then after that, there's a whole stack of stuff. So there's Lost Tales written by Len Wein. So these are stories what he was planning with layouts by Bernie Wrightson. So if you're any Bernie Wrightson fans, this is an interesting bit of history to get. So these are stories that never came to be. So the back matter's fascinating as well. And there's quite a bit, so I'm gonna have fun looking at that. And then there's and this is interesting. They've got the making of Swamp Thing from the Wein's archives. So this gives a look into the process of what he did for Convergence Swamp Thing #1. And those are his scripts for the other series. And then there's some Kelly Jones sketches. His sketches are just phenomenal. When I say sketches, I mean look at them. Works of art. So really, really enjoyed the whole process. Like I said, I think it's really good value for what you get as well. It's a big book. You get over 400 pages and it's just $49.99. I paid just £19 because I got it, pardon me, in a sale at my local comic shop. So yay, even more of a bargain. I'm good at finding bargains. But yeah, highly recommend this. Like I said, that's the normal cover. It's a really high quality presentation. It's a fitting tribute to... I do like, one thing I like, it's a fitting tribute to one of the pioneers of comics in the 70s, Len Wein. And I do like how DC honour the old guard. I don't think that gets done enough. It's okay having like a 1-page or 2-page spread in a 1-page or a 2. I'm just going to say it like this. It's okay having like a 1-page or a 2-page spread, you know, in a normal comics, I know, in Memorial. But to do something like this, what you can have physically showing up the man's legacy, and I like how it's not focused on his early stuff. It's brand new, you know, it's his last stuff, and it's fun to see how his voice has changed slightly from how he used to be. Wasn't as weird as it used to be. He still got, like, you could tell what writers who were writing comics in the 60s and 70s, they have a dependence on word boxes. So there's still quite a few of them where they describe the action, what's happening, and what you can see. But he doesn't do it as much as Chris Claremont or Stanley or other people like that. And yeah, I like how DC honour the greats, and that was what he was. Len Wein is great, and I think Kelly Jones is a modern great. He's one of the. He was like laying the groundwork for the artists who've come since, like Nick Klein, Cal Hotz, Hayden Sherman, and other people. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful tribute, and I'll give the book an 8.5 out of 10. But and like I said, for me, it's even sweeter because I got a good deal on it. But yeah, if you want a Swamp Thing book that's easily accessible to jump into, and like I said, it's much more, if you like Hellboy, this is a perfect kind of book, because like I said, it's more of a fun Swamp Thing, if that makes any sense. So I hope you enjoyed that, and apologies for the malfunctioning clothing and microphone, but it's bloody hot, and I make no apologies for not covering up when I'm hot. I don't mean I'm hot, but I mean it, the heat. Oh, fuck off. I'm going to get roasted for that. Oh, more puns of the heat. Oh, dear. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now before I really shoot myself in the foot. Okay, bye.